morning, everyone, and it's nice to be here with this distinguished gentleman. So for some reason, I'm the only female here. But thank you, Prof, because you already said women, mothers know how to do it. So let's show them what African mothers can do. So we just have one role to perform today. And our panel discussion title is Shaping a New Generation Through the Values of the Past. So we hope that we'll be able to, after this conversation, profile strategies and frameworks for stakeholders. So I'm just going to read the synopsis in a bit. In an era defined by globalization, technological disruption, and shifting social norms, African families and societies stand at a crossroad. While modernity offers opportunity, it also presents a risk of cultural erosion and generational disconnect. This panel seeks to interrogate the enduring power of African values rooted in community, respect, resilience, and relational harmony as tools to shape a morally grounded, emotionally intelligent, and socially responsible new generation. Our session invites critical reflection and shared strategies from key sectors, from government, from media, academia, and the family life industry, on how to bridge the wisdom of the past with the demands of the present. Our goal is to co-create sustainable frameworks for value transmission, policy integration, and societal reorientation that ensures our heritage becomes the strength of our future. We have several objectives we want to achieve, such as identifying core African values that are essential for generational renewal. We want to also explore cross-sectorial frameworks for embedding these values into systems. And hopefully we will co-develop actionable strategies to help African families, communities, and institutions reclaim their identity and heritage with pride and relevance. So I can see comedian is already nodding. It's like, Madam, let's get to the nitty-gritty. So we're getting there. So I'm going to take us first to try to get our perspective on this general question that everyone would contribute to. And so the question is, what strategies were available in the past from our rich African heritage that are relevant for us now, shaping the global landscape of family life? So I will try to moderate this. We have 2 minutes each to respond. No, please help me pass it to, yes. No, not Dr. Charles. Yes, sir. Please go ahead. What strategies were available in the past from our rich African heritage that are relevant for us now, shaping the global landscape of family life?
Thank you so much. First, I'd like to say that we are here to discuss something that relates to the future of the entire world, because the past has always been a taproot to the stream of the future. And in Things Fall Apart, Chinua Achebe reflected the thematic thought throughout the book that the Africans had the strength and cohesion of tribal life before the first touch of imperialism sent it really down from a very delicate equilibrium. Now, African society, the Nigerian society, are collocated to Benin. For instance, the Beninese were civilized. What we call civilization today is modernity. every strata of society was so arranged that everybody had a place. And there were ethos, there were taboos, there were do's and don'ts which regulated the society. And of course, these effectively managed the society. For instance, to check stealing, anybody caught stealing in those days was paraded in the entire community with some odds and ends around the person, painted in black and almost naked. And any person who was thinking of attempting to steal will never attempt it, because that disgrace was there. And now society, like the professor said, hinged on the family, because the family is the first unit of society. The father played almost all the roles. In fact, the father was almost a doctor. When you are sick, it's daddy. When you need money, it's daddy. You want to train for any trade, daddy. Anything, daddy. Farm, daddy. And then mothers had their roles. But above all that, the community will meet at a point. And these gatherings educated everyone and reminded them continuously of what was expected of every grade of citizens of that particular society or community. Now, let us reflect on some of these. For instance, in Benin, there was nothing like prostitution because there was a prevailing taboo on it. And anybody who tries it, I'm sure, was risking death or disgrace. Because one, the hair of the person committing it will be shaven and made to go around the entire community naked. And the prescribed rites for purification, sanctification, they were so much that nobody tries it. And there was this mutual respect. Age grades respect the other age grades. Now you have the infants, you have the youngsters, you have the youth, you have the elders or junior, and at any point you graduate to the order, and this respect was there. Now there was also the apportioning of various duties to the young people, to the youth, to the elders, and to the elderly. And power was turned by turn. The autocracy started before the monarchy. And so there was this regulatory system. It was a balance that was never faulted. And when we had all that, things were working very efficiently. When the Europeans came, they saw an organized society. They saw a very organized society. Roy de Segura compared Benin City to a city in Holland. Amsterdam, precisely. Thank you so much. I think I'll stop for now.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Yes, please. You want to contribute to that? So we have structures that helps us to regulate society. We had rites of purification that made sure that we stayed with sexual chastity, of course, respect, and power being turn by turn. Do you have additional outside of this?
Okay, I will digress a little bit from what my uncle have just stated. I think the factors that were helping the marriages of those days were more of value and sacrifice. Value and sacrifice. Our mothers were ready to sacrifice some temporary pains from our fathers, and our fathers were also ready to sacrifice some temporary pain from our mothers, so the children can have a better life. That is why you see a Benin woman will tell you, if I don't leave this year marriage, if not for my children. So then they had reasons to go through some difficulties because they wanted their children to have a life. They wanted their children to enjoy family values. They wanted their children to feel the love of a mother and of a father. And again, they had value. Wife, understand that this is my husband. And the respect was much. The respect was very, my mama cannot call my father baby. You see, most of all this, it might sound funny, but it is not really a joke. They take their husband, those days, sacrifice and value. They see, they so value their husband to the extent, even in the Bible, Sarah used to call her husband my Lord, right? These are not ordinary words. They were strong words, and this actually represented the actual pattern of how marriage should look like. I don't know, the Western culture has infiltrated, and that is why you see those days divorce was very low. Why you won't leave your husband? Those days, if you come up for your husband, you're the shame. That be value. When your children, your mother will start telling their daughters to avoid you. That woman not the husband again. You come up for husband and not go yaso. Those elements, those values that was able to keep those marriages together. And the painful thing is, they will not having money. This woman that was respecting my father now, he not get to. But the marriage was not based on financial gains or what the man was bringing to the table. It was just based on sacrifice and value. And that's that consciousness that I will never raise my kids in a broken home. Now these are the major reasons why you don't get to hear about divorce then. But right now, my generation, thank God I think I represent this generation. I think I represent the problematic generation. Cruise. Marriage is not cruise. Those days, if you are getting married, your father will tell you as you leave this house, you can't come back to this house again. Except for very serious, unforgivable offenses. But now you are getting married, the father-in-law, they threaten the son-in-law. So show you see where you are getting married from. Should not be poor girl. If you misbehave 2 seconds, I will send her home here. She was not born to suffer. Now marriage don't turn threats. So people will continue, and those days our mothers were going to marriage. Again, no value to build. They were not going to collect. Now marriage is not a money-making venture from some ladies. Let me also state it here. While you are looking for a successful man, these men are also looking for a successful woman. Those days, marriage was not about how many cars you were driving. Because if it was car, my mother wouldn't have gotten married to my father. That guy was a typist.
So MC Casino, you're saying that one of the strategies that worked in the past we should hold on to is building a value-based marriage.
And sacrifice.
Okay, thank you for that. So we're going to come another round. So, I'm keeping you intentionally. So let me just repeat that question in case we, got disconnected from it. So we're still looking at Akinwepu, strategies that were available from the past. Sometimes when we're having discussions about Africa, it's kind of, sometimes it could be tilted to all of the negative things, the things that are not working, the things that are bad, and it's looking like we didn't have stuff. Even when Prof was presenting, he said that our history that was documented was misquoted. because there were things working. So we want to bring that, start from that positive light. What are 1, 2, 3 things that you think were strategies that worked in the past that we should still retain now because it's relevant for shaping a global landscape for family life?
Thank you, our principal. So I'm going to talk about 2 strategies that worked in time past. And I still want many of us to hold on to those strategies now if we don't have them yet, or we are not so sure that they are strategies. So one of them, let me start with the etymology of the word Omo in Yoruba, child in English. So Omo is a combination of 2 words, O, then Mo. Mo means mold. So a child becomes Omo when a parent has already molded the child. So for every child that was born into a family, it was expected of every parent then that this child, before he or she became a child, it is agreed or was agreed from heaven that the parents are ready to mold the child. And that is why it is Omo. That one now led me to the second strategy. The second strategy then is or was, Yoruba will say, Ile laawo kato somo loruko. You look into the house before you name the child. What does that mean? So the moment a child is named in that family, it was expected that the child must behave according to the name that was given to him or her. That takes us to the point that the etymology of Omo must be upheld. For instance, Akinropo, Akinola. Well, let me start from Akinola, my name, right? My great-grandfathers were warriors. They were warriors. As a matter of fact, my grandfather waged war, was a mercenary from Oyo Kingdom in 17th century. So it was one of the problems that Ibadan had, that they went to go and bring, they sourced him, one of the warriors in Oyo Kingdom, and they brought him to Ibadan, and he settled there. And that was why that name Akin came in. So it was expected that every child that was born in our family, we have that, a link name, Akin. We must have it regardless of every other name. So you know that you are born into the family and you are born to wage war. Now we don't
Akin
wage
means
war.
warrior?
Yes, please. Now we don't wage physical war. We wage intellectual war, right? So now, when we look at how children were even born at all, it was war. You know how many millions of cells, sperm cells, that are raised to fertilize the egg. So when parents begin to have that consciousness that when we are bringing a child to this world, the name I'm going to name that child must be a name that I must follow through as the child is growing up. So when the child is growing up, you follow through. And when a child is given birth in a family, everybody is happy. We throw parties. I don't know where the discord happens when we begin to now curse the child. So those are the 2 strategies. Omo is someone that you mold, that becomes Omo. Then the second one is Ilelawo Kato Somo Loruko. When you give birth to your child, what name do you want to give? I'm sorry, ma. I don't have any problem with some people naming their children funny names. Sharon, Jaron, I don't have any problem with them. But I will admonish us to name our children our core traditional name, cultural name, so that it will continue to ring a bell. You have Omo Labake, Omo Labage. You have all those ones that when you give birth to a child, you are supposed to train this child to become somebody in life. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. Please help me pass it to Dr. Apoki. And while I wait for him, let me just recap what Akinrokbo has said. And that's very important. You know, I was working with a client, and based on what was going on with the person, I saw a disconnect with the person coming to terms with their identity. So I gave that person an assignment. So what's the meaning of your name? I don't know. What's the meaning of your surname? I don't know. So I gave an assignment, go talk with your parents. When next we're meeting, I want you to do a reflection on why you were given that name and what your family name meant. Interestingly, I'm trying to be not gender specific here. Interestingly, when the person did that research and came back, part of what the person was dealing with was identity loss, that sense of not good enough, but embedded in the name was royalty. Embedded in the meaning of the name was a person who stands out in whatever they are doing. So even in therapy, and I'm talking to my professional colleagues here, we have to get down to genealogy. We have to get people to trace their heritage. I'll speak to that later, but I just want to tie that in. Even for men who are struggling in their masculinity, one of the things I've added to the work I do with them is send them on a journey to go and trace back the male ancestry for the last 3 generations. How did the men in your family handle being a man? What do you know about it? And it's interesting revelations coming in. So yes, I agree with you, and I have a bias, of course, because all of my children, our children, have traditional names. Like him, I don't have a problem with English names, but I want to name a name that I can explain what it means. So very spot on, and our people did that, and I think it's something we should do, because in this age of civilization, we want to have the most European name, why not give them, and if I've ever interacted with you and you gave me an English name, trust me, I'll ask, what's your native name? And then I'll seek permission. Can I call you by your native name so that we can reclaim our heritage and be proud of it? Dr. Charles Apoki, what strategies, thank you.
Thank you.
What strategies are available from the past? And I'm going to time you because I know you can give it in 30 minutes. Give us in 2 minutes strategies that we need to hold on to.
I've been married for 40 years. I married when I was 26. My wife was 24. She was 19. I was 21 in medical school. I told her, I want to marry somebody I will grow up with. And so you are going to read nursing. So I wrote her application to UBTH here to read nursing. Marriage is not sustained by love. Love is a chemical reaction. It is the production of oxytocin and other love hormones, and they wear out with time. Marriage, I asked my wife when I turned 60, I'm 66 now, I said, what has kept this relationship? Is it the toffee feeling? When I was sending you postcards, we had postcards. I would post a postcard every day from UI.
Hey, they do love now.
Yes, to UBTH. Is it that I don't post now because the chemical has reduced?
It's okay.
And so the problem we are having in this generation that we didn't have in the time past was that today's marriages are founded on Mills and Boom and Romeo and Juliet and Titanic. But marriage is founded on responsibility. Responsibility, the physique of the person may change, the looks of the person may change, but the roles and the rights and privileges remain the same. In Africa, we did what was called gene pool selection. I call it GPS. You didn't marry from specific families because of their tendencies, because of disease patterns like schizophrenia. Schizophrenia runs in families because of stories concerning such families. So families united to raise a new generation better than their own generation by bringing Akin genes with Ade genes. Ade Goke, Akin is warrior, Ade is crown. When you bring these two genes together, then you bring a strong kingdom. So we did gene pool selection. But there was a problem that came to Africa with colonization, and that was taxation. Taxation, I grew up to meet trade by barter. Taxation necessitated that our males in our families paid, even females in Aba Riot, they paid with the currency which was produced by the Western world. And so we needed to leave home to go and work in the township. And then the family was divided. But you see, if you go around Africa, the Chinese communities, their marriages are lasting longer. The Indian communities, their families are lasting, marriages are lasting longer. Even I was in the UK, I found out that the whole street Edgeware was filled with businesses by Asians until Africans start treasuring family-based businesses and transgenerational transfer of entrepreneurship. Families will keep having problems of man going to work somewhere, woman working somewhere, children left alone. I stopped working for any person at the age of 29 when I opened my first practice. And I've been building family businesses since then. My daughter manages my school. My granddaughter is in that school. And so we see each day with my wife and her. My wife does business with my son, who became a millionaire in my house at the age of 22 when he was leaving Uniben. And then we try to transfer. You see, go to Egun Street, you will see that there is an industry there that is transgenerational. And so this Japa syndrome and all this job mentality, until Africans start thinking about building family businesses that can endure. Bagdash Ice Cream Parlor in Damascus has been producing ice cream since 1895. The Four Cousins wine you drink, those spaces, there are Four Cousins in South Africa. Sabanchi Foundation, that pays 5% of the annual tax of Turkey, has been in business for generations. Now, you see that the Beretta pistol has been producing guns for 500 years. What your father used to train you to university, suddenly you abandon it and start carrying brown envelopes. And so even though I trained as a medical doctor, medical training and practice will never leave my lineage. My son is an orthopedic surgeon in Germany, because right from when I was taking him into the theater, I will write on his palm, Professor. My son is married to a cardiologist. And so medical practice will never leave the family. There are giftings that families get. When that gifting enters your family, after it might be an anointing, after some time it turns to a culture like Egun Street. Now, let me quickly say this. You don't marry, you see the elite do this gene pool selection. They marry power, marry performance, marry platforms. And now, when Isaac, even in the Bible, he didn't marry anyone. When Isaac was to marry Rebecca, there were specifications. This girl that will give my camel, that I would tell, give me water to drink, and will say, I will water your camels. Isaac inherited camels from his father. In fact, the woman met him in the farm. Each camel drinks 30 gallons of water. Multiplied by 4 is 120 liters. Times 10 camels is 1,200 liters. Times acceleration due to gravity, G, times the distance of the well, plus the depth of the well, you will find out that the woman had capacity, competence, character, and chemistry that we should look for instead of curves, coils, and color. Thank you.
Hey! Dr. Akpoki. Dr. Akpoki, please come this way. I'm coming closer to you, but not just for that, because I've been told that we need to rearrange. The colors there is entering eye. But then it worked out in my favor because, the distance is not. I almost lost my home training after doctor finished. I wanted to shout, oh, Shay. I said, no, you're a moderator. Calm down. Just relax. So let me compose myself. But that is so spot on. And, these are conversations we should be having. In recent times, power brokers, 2 families, their children getting married. And the way we put out the narrative is almost looking like intentional selection of where to place your children is a bad thing. We should go beyond just saying that. Rather, probably we are calling out to say, oh, please, if there are gaps that should be filled. Because right from time, gene pool selection has been done. I'm from Anambra State. My husband is from another town in Anambra State. But I know that when we're getting married, Ejuese is somebody from his place coming to my hometown unknown to us to talk to people in the community about my family. And then it's a random person because you won't know who they are sending to. So they check out, do they have mental health issues? Do their women stay in marriages? Are the men hardworking? In fact, I had somebody I'd worked with who wanted to get married to someone. The parents refused. Why? Because in the young man's lineage, they were known to be thieves. His grandfather was a thief. His uncle was a thief in the community. Local thief for stealing chickens and goats, right? But then, because it had passed from not just grandfather, another uncle, and then one of them got married, one of the women in that family got married into another family, and her son also started showing stealing tendencies. So as far as the parents were concerned, this is in their blood. But the girl was, we're in love, and the parents put their foot down, and that marriage didn't hold. Maybe some of us in Western world say, leave them, they are in love. But that is the intentionality of preserving your family heritage. Doctor, thank you for bringing that up. And I'm going to be vulnerable here. Just recently, 3 days ago, my husband and I were having a conversation with another parent who was throwing up his own challenge of he has a business which he grew from his dad. So he was going with his dad, then from him he started, and then his children now, one is studying engineering, the other is in medical school and all of that. And he was saying, so are we going to just hand over this legacy to other people? Like he doesn't want to push it because New Age is saying, leave your child, let him do what he wants to do. But with what doctor said to us, it was so spot on. Because one of the challenges we're having in modern days is, like Prof said, people not spending time together. I've not built global business like you, but I know that even in the one I do with my husband, the fact that we sit together to discuss strategies, we go for meetings together, I'm already seeing how it is building a close-knit. So maybe I'll come to you later. Where do we draw this balance of wanting to build family-owned businesses and also not stifling our children to put them there? I think one of the things you said was starting early, but we'll come back to that. So that's something we need to chew on. Family-based businesses will bring the cohesion and the integration that we are all crying about. Thank you everyone for your take on that question. I will just go specifically to expertise questions. So let me start with Mr. Moses, sir. As an oral historian, saddled with the responsibility of researching and documenting findings, can you please share with us ways you and other oral historians are preserving our culture and values such that they are not lost, but are passed down from generations to generations even after us? So what can we do? We talk about documentation. Yeah.
Don't forget, I started with the distortion of the African community with what they refer to as modernity. Civilization, they called it, but like I earlier said, we had cohesion of tribal life before the advent of civilization, or what is modernity. And in bringing back all this to bear on the present, so that we can have a future generation that will be responsive and responsible to our country and ultimately Africa, we need to regenerate, to repropagate, and to stand by our cultures, take them back. And by so doing, we're going back to the old system, starting from the family, where everybody will be responsible. Don't forget, most of the things we are talking about now were not written down anywhere. They were passed down the generations by oral tradition. If from the homes, like when I was growing up, we used to hold evening meetings, storytelling sessions. These storytelling sessions were usually didactic. They would bring up a fable that will bring some sanity into the children, and then they'll be treating some moral codes and stipulating them, making the children to imbibe them. Then, at the level of community, bringing up a child is not to be left to the parents alone, because it takes a community to raise a child. Now, some of these children, they could be loafing around in the street. Some elders will see them and say, oh, they are not my children. No. In those days, if you are where you are not supposed to be, a parent sees you, will apprehend you and ask, what are you doing right now? Where are you coming from? Where are you going? And take you to your parents. Then, how do we put them down for future generations? For instance, I'm already documenting, and so are others. I'm doing an oral history of Benin from when Benin was, well, this is where we have some arguments. I don't believe that Benin evolved. Benin did not evolve. Benin was by a divine proclamation by God. And so we have this spiritual, mandate to live in the image of God and according to the dictates of God, and we should uphold that. Now, in documenting all this, it is everybody's responsibility. Every family has the challenge to do this. Now, let me tell you something that is also fast fading, which we need to document in the Benin Kingdom, for instance. I'm using Benin, like I said, as the local point of reference. If any Benin person greets here now, we will immediately know the genealogy. When you say Lamogun, I immediately know that you are from the Obas lineage. When you say Lagite, that's my own. I will embrace you and say, who is your father? And eventually, I will get to the root of that. So, families need to document just like we are documenting. And by so doing, we will be able to pass this from generation to generation. Now, sometimes a master of ceremonies, they contract me to go to a place like Lagos, MC Casino. We have worked together on such journeys to come and officiate. I'm not a priest for a traditional marriage because they have lost the process. They don't know what comes before the other. So families on their own, like some of us are doing, should document all these things, and then they will be passed down from generation to generation. And then the balance is that we should try as much as possible not to condemn our ways. For instance, most of the indecent behaviors we have today, they were not in Africa, so to speak. They were imported. I can use Benin as a point again. There was no prostitution in Benin for the whole of its existence. So if you look at the languages used for prostitution, there is none relating to Benin. Benin Kingdom has no prostitution in their dictionary or vocabulary. We have Ibiranja, that relates to another tribe close to Benin. We have Osuka, that's Osuka. We have Ashewo, that's Yoruba, and some others. So by the time we begin to document all these things, and we know, like Bob Marley said, if you know where you are coming from, then you will know where you are going. Like I said before, the past is always a taproot to the stem of the future.
Thank you so much for that. So the question for us is, what's your family legacy and culture system? That's just the summary of what he's saying. And it was spot on that he touched on language. Because if you didn't have a language for something, it means that it didn't exist already for you. So even for us in our families, we need to be intentional about who we say we are and how we organize ourselves. I see they are waiting, but please hold on. I need to take these two questions. Very important, so that we can have salient points that we are going with. Akinropo, you are going to take this in a hurry, but still give us those strategies because you are representing the family life industry. So it's important that we talk on that. Hold on. In today's fast evolving world, where digital influence and cultural fluidity, and shifting values challenge traditional roles, Akinropo, can you share with us foundational steps, salient points, 1, 2, 3, or an adaptable framework that you recommend to an African father? There are African fathers watching and here, and they want to realign their family with these enduring cultural values. What are some foundational steps that you can say, this African father, do this, do this, do this? Please share that with us in 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you once again, Principal. So first off, we've already identified that identity problem is the pain of the development of our teenagers, whether they're in Nigeria or outside Nigeria, because they live in an identity fluid world. What do I mean by that? You know, they have social media platforms, and each social media platform has its own inherent behavior. So it's just like when I say identity fluid. So now look at it this way. I'm sorry, I'm using this as an example, you know, image-driven stuff. So this container, the water is full in it. So by the time you are turning this water into like 2 or 3 containers, empty containers, there is likelihood that a few of this water that have gone through the 3 bottles will not be complete again, because a few of them will have dropped off. So what that means is, this is the child. These are our teenagers. They are pure like that. But by the time they begin to move from one platform to the other, their identity is being tampered with. So one of those strategies that we advise parents, fathers, is the fact that let there be a defined language. Let your children know the root of the language. Let them know the history of your ancestors. Who were they? What were the predominant economic activities they did? And that was, you know, the predominant economic activities actually gave birth to the name. That's why I'm talking about the etymology, the name. So the name of your forefathers has something to do with the social values that they inherited, has something to do with economic value that they inherited. So allow the children to get familiar with that. So wherever they are, they will not miss their identity. So like I've said, I've written it before, I'm still going to say it again, that the mistake I made on my children, I will never repeat that mistakes on our grandchildren. The mistake, one of the mistakes is we spoke English to them. You know, when we were in school, they told us I don't speak vernacular. And we grew up to see that speaking Yoruba was just like, something that is never to happen. So we made that mistake on our children. We are not going to make that mistake on our grandchildren. The first language they are going to speak is Yoruba. And that is why we are incorporating our children. They will take family life systems certification so that they know the reason why we are doing that, not that we want to force it on them. That is number one. The number two is the problem they really want to solve. We really want to know. It's going to be stated that this is the problem of the world. These are the problems of the world. These are the challenges across spheres of influence. So we must be able to design it. Thank God for our mentor is here. I'm sorry for putting you on the spot. Mr. Praise for Wowe. You know, he took us on that family system constitution. You know, there are 9 systems that govern family. So if you are not there yet, please, you can take this course. So 2 of those systems govern the area of the problems that every family must be able to solve. And I like the fact of what Doctor said about the challenges facing the country, facing the families. So it has its roots in the families. So every family must design whether you want to solve the problem of communication, you want to solve the problem of economic, you want to solve the problem of infrastructure, you want to solve the problems of businesses. So you want to solve of business. So those must be clearly defined such that when I am gone, when my wife had gone, they will know Akiropo, Akiola family. This is the solution they have brought into this generation, and it's still trending even when we are no longer here. And that is how to perpetuate our name as one of the names that built Africa, that built Nigeria, and that has come out of the soil of Yoruba, not Benin Kingdom now, I'm sorry, of Yoruba. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. I wish we had more time, but we need to wrap this up. And I hope that as we were listening, we were not just entertained, but we're taking notes. So like I will always say, what is that one thing that you're taking away from this panel that you will immediately implement in your family? So that when we are coming next year, it's not that you just heard. I already know what I'm going to do, so I'll share with you. I'm also guilty like Akinropo, where our children were speaking English and all that. And my mother kept telling me. So at a point in time, I had to get them an Igbo dictionary so that they would learn to speak Igbo. Then when she would come around, she would say, Chiefo, that means your morning has come. But in the recent times, I've not been that intentional. We even had to make some rules around it. Some days, purely Igbo language, and there were some sanctions. But honestly, in the last couple of years, we've not been doing that. So that's my takeaway. We're going to go back and reinstate speaking Igbo intentional, because you can't take away the place of language with heritage. So that's my takeaway. What's yours? And please ensure that you implement. Thank you, everyone.
Awesome. Thank you so much.